Hey, good morning, All Saints. This coming Sunday, we're celebrating All Saints Day together. Of course, today, as I record this, it's Halloween, All Hallows Eve. Tomorrow, November the 1st, is All Saints Day proper, but we'll observe that liturgy on Sunday. On Saturday, we have a call to prayer for the election, and I just want to take a second and talk about how these two things, the call to prayer for the election and All Saints Day, are connected, at least in my mind. You may know the history of Halloween and All Saints Day. The early church encountered a pagan festival that happened on November the 1st. And the festival was about a lot of things, but it was mostly about death. It was believed that this period of time, the end of summer, the beginning of autumn, was something of a thin space between the living and the dead, that we were in this really unique way connected with hauntings, with disembodied spirits, with the dead. This was the tone and tenor and substance of this pagan festival. The church encounters this festival, and interestingly, what they don't do is just ignore it and say, well, they're going to do their awful celebration. We're going to have no part of it. Instead, what they did was they did something on the very same day, November the 1st, and in many ways it echoed that pagan festival, but put a redemptive spin on it. What the church said was, what this festival really understands is that, number one, the dead matter, and number two, the space between the living and the dead really is actually thin. The church has always taught, we pray it in the Eucharistic liturgy every Sunday, that when we come to the divine liturgy, we are with angels and archangels and all the company of heaven joining in this service, this prayer, this worship of the triune God. In a sense, there is a thin space between heaven and earth, between the living and the dead. And throughout the year, of course, we celebrate various saints, St. Paul and St. James, and so on. But All Saints Day was an acknowledgement of all the saints, all of the departed in the Lord. A remembrance of them, to be sure, a thought of death like the pagan holiday, but more than that, something about the nature of reality itself, that life is more than just flesh and blood, and that life goes on and God holds us all in his hands. All Saints Day is a redemptive festival. The church began to answer the question of the pagan holiday. So that's something about All Saints Day. On Saturday, Philip has called a solemn assembly and invites us to pray on Saturday for the state of our country, the health of our country, and specifically for the upcoming election. And it's kind of analogous, I think, to the way the early church thought about pagan festivals. We are going to have an election, and people have lots of anxiety about who will win that election, about the processes of the election. You name it, people are filled with anxiety about our political moment. And the church, I think, in dedicating a time to serious prayer, does two things. First, it acknowledges that politics really does matter, that people aren't foolish to be concerned about the political fate of our country. Politics is where we kind of administer justice, recognizing rights. This really, really does matter, and yet we aren't holding a political rally on Saturday. Far from it. It's a prayer meeting. The church, in coming together to pray for our political moment, for our country, as the prayer book gives us prayers to pray for our country. In doing that, I think we're telling the world, yes, you're exactly right. Politics really matters, but the source of political health, the hand that holds the living and the dead, the hand that holds the hearts of peasants and kings, is God. And so we go to God, not as a way to evade political responsibility, vote and be involved in politics, work to make the life of your neighbor safer. All that is good and fine. But in the first instance, the thing that is upstream from all of our political turmoil and crisis is a spiritual battle happening in the heavenly realm. And when we go to God, the Most High God, and we plead on behalf of a people, as Lot pled for Sodom and Gomorrah, as Abraham blessed the nations, as Jesus pleads on behalf of the world, represents the world, bearing the cares of the world to the Father. So are we going to bear the burdens of the world to a God who not only hears, he does that, but a God who moves and acts and has the hearts of kings and peasants in his hands, as I said. And so these next few days are special days. Philip always says days like this are pregnant days. They're pregnant with hope. They're days of tension and pain and turmoil, but they're days where God seems to work and act. So I hope you can come Saturday as we redeem this political moment and turn the eyes of the world and the eyes of the church heavenward. And I hope you do come on Sunday as we do that exact same thing. Look heavenward and acknowledge that thin space that exists between the living and the dead, remembering those in our community who have died this past year and all the saints in heaven. If you need anything between now and Saturday or Sunday, feel free to reach out to me or another member of the clergy. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Go in peace.